We're a channel for billionaires, but that doesn't mean we ignore the real social issues around us in the world. We've uncovered some interesting facts about homelessness that bust some common misconceptions and hopefully leave our Aluxers inspired to help. Number 1. Homelessness isn't just a third world problem. You might think that homelessness is a poverty issue linked to places like India, Bangladesh, or Uganda. But the truth is, almost 60% of Americans will spend at least a year of their life below the poverty line. So homelessness affects everyone, from third world to first world. But what is the reason for the growing number of people without homes? In a country like the US, workers earning minimum wage can't afford a one-bedroom apartment. On top of that, minimum wage hasn't kept up with the cost of living. For example, the cost of a two-bedroom apartment increased by 41% from 2000 to 2009. Number 2. People aren't on the streets just because of money. When you think of people living on the streets, it's easy to think it's just a case of not having money for housing. But many people who make it onto the streets are there because they're fleeing something even more sinister that makes the streets seem like a better option. A 2012 study conducted in Minnesota found that almost half of homeless women were on the street because of domestic abuse. Sadly, on the street, the violence against women doesn't stop. 92% of homeless women reported being physically or sexually assaulted. A quarter of young homeless women had to go back to the abusive relationship because they had nowhere else to go. Many war-torn countries create refugees fleeing for their safety, but when they get to a safer country, they often don't have papers, personal identity numbers, and bank accounts, so aren't able to be part of the normal economy and rent a temporary shelter. Another reason is natural disasters. According to Homeless World Cup, in a country like Indonesia, for example, there are 3 million homeless people. In 2018 alone, there were 857,500 newly displaced people due to natural disasters and violence. Number 3. It's not all just a lawless society. Each community has a code. Don't think that living on the streets is just a lawless society. Communities of people form regions, and there are definite acceptable codes of conduct to abide by if you want to remain welcome there. Ralph Anderson's article in the Journal of Social Distress and Homelessness explains that carelessness with respect to any of these factors can result in victimization. Perhaps there's a rule that you only bed down at a certain time, or you can't infringe on someone else's sleeping place. Being part of a community can help with personal security, so it's essential to stick to the code. Number 4. Men are more likely to become homeless than women. It's hard to get exact statistics of street-dwelling people in many countries, but in the USA, which was well surveyed, individual men make up more than 70% of the homeless population. The rate can be as high as 92% in states like Louisiana. Cultural Weekly adds, a factor that can make it difficult to determine the true statistics on homelessness broken down by gender is the general inability to track the homeless population. And Aluxers, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more daily videos on a wide variety of topics. Number 5. Mental health issues are one of the leading causes of homelessness. Many people think that drug addiction is what gets people on the streets, but it is often secondary to mental health issues. A third of homeless people have severe mental illness. This commonly includes schizophrenia, severe depression, and bipolar disorder, according to research by the Harvard Medical School. When it comes to drug use, people addicted to drugs and alcohol who are from a poor background are more likely to be at risk for homelessness. However, the root cause of homelessness is typically mental health, and the risk factor for ending up on the street increases exponentially. Number 6. Help is available, but it's often hard for homeless people to adjust to. We know what you're thinking. There are plenty of shelters available, but imagine you're in a mentally vulnerable state and you have to share a room or perhaps a hall with a bunch of strangers and just fall into a routine you have no control over. That's a tall ask for someone in a good space of mind. It's especially difficult for someone who's vulnerable. The crowds, the noise, the routine can all be difficult to adjust to, and because these types of institutions are so often limited in resources, a one-size-fits-all approach is all that's practical. But often these people have had experiences with institutions before. A Harvard Medical School study found that half the people applying to shelters had been in foster care or a psychiatric hospital in the past. Again, showing that these people have had many struggles long before becoming homeless. Number 7. It's not illegal in every country, and criminalizing homelessness doesn't stop it. If you think you can just put up signs and say you can't sleep on the streets, or put spikes on every city surface to prevent people from sitting or sleeping in your city, then think again. Those people don't just magically become housed because you outlawed them. This causes further trauma for homeless people. It also puts more strain on the criminal justice and hospital systems, as these form temporary housing for many. Creating safe spaces for people to transition from sleeping rough to housing is the only way to solve this problem. Cities who are embracing this method are seeing inspiring results. Cities that offer housing first with lower barriers to entry have greater success in keeping homeless people housed. Once people are housed, they deal with factors that cause them to become homeless in the first place, such as job loss, mental health issues, or addiction. Number 8. Homeless communities migrate with the weather to warmer coastal towns. You might have noticed that coastal towns have higher populations of homeless people. This is because they generally have a more temperate climate, and it's slightly more bearable to sleep on the streets. MarketWatch confirms that nearly half of the homeless people in the USA live in California. Number 9. Slums give us a false sense of how many people are safe in permanent houses. There isn't a universal definition of homelessness. The definition varies from country to country. In many countries, there are the hidden homeless, which refers to the people living in inadequate settlements like slums, squatting in abandoned structures, or couch surfers. For example, Ghana has an urban population of 14 million people, 5.5 million of which live in slums. By another country's standards, that could mean that over 30% of the population is homeless. However, in a country like Bulgaria, only 1,370 people were registered as homeless in a 2013 survey. But the real number is probably higher because only people with government-issued IDs who had signed up for support were counted. Number 10. Families and homelessness. According to FamilyPromise.org, a child is born into poverty every 33 seconds globally. That means that homelessness isn't going anywhere anytime soon. In the USA, 2 million American children will fall victim to the home foreclosure crisis in the next 2 years. 1 in 5 children in the USA will live in poverty, which is the highest rate in the industrialized world. Homelessness is a family affair, with homeless families making up 40% of the homeless population. This is also a very difficult position to start from, with little chance of escaping the homelessness cycle. Number 11. LGBT homeless stats and facts. Coming out is hard, but most people coming out don't imagine they'd also be homeless. The number of LGBTQ+ homeless people is staggering. The Prison Policy Initiative confirms that LGBTQ youth compose 40% of the homeless youth population. Despite that frightening statistic, there are no programs to give support to the gay and transgender homeless youth. One of the leading causes for LGBTQ+ homelessness is the rejection of their family. More than 1 in 4 children flee their homes when their family reacts negatively to the news they are LGBTQ+. Adding to this, it's confirmed that gay homeless youth have a higher chance of suffering from major depression compared to heterosexual homeless youth, and lesbian homeless women had a higher chance of struggling with PTSD than heterosexual homeless young women. Number 12. Accessing services when you don't have an address is impossible. Aluxers, what if a homeless person was ready to start turning their life around? How easy or difficult would it be for them to get a job? Pretty damn hard. They can't just get their CV printed at the closest printing shop. What would they say on their CV? Skills? Managing to sleep on hard pavement in the middle of winter with no blanket? Not exactly an employable skill, is it? And how would a homeless person put forward a postal address? They can't. So even the most willing homeless person would encounter challenge after challenge in trying to get themselves out of where they've landed. Number 13. Just providing a house isn't the entire problem solved. Being given a house is a wonderful idea, but that's about as far as it goes. If a person doesn't have money or the mental capacity to function well, how can they maintain that house? Where will they get money for food or to pay their bills? Housing alone is not enough. People need to be educated, or they need to ensure their mental health is on track. There needs to be follow-up, guidance, and help to ensure the person doesn't fall back into their old habits, and all of that takes time and money. We highly suggest you watch our video, 15 Reasons Why Money Doesn't Solve Homelessness. We delve into this exact point even further and provide more insight into how money is not all that's needed to solve this drastic problem. Number 14. Homelessness is not a bigger problem, it's just more visible. Aluxers, in 2018, there were 553,000 people who identified as homeless. That was 15% less than reported in 2007. That figure might sound great, and it is, but since 2017, there's been a steady increase in homelessness. COVID has also had a terrible impact on homelessness, which we'll go into next. Number 15. How COVID has affected homelessness. It's no secret that unemployment has soared, and for a short while, eviction was banned in many cities. MarketWatch has predicted that COVID will cause twice as much homelessness as the Great Recession. They add the situation will be worse in California, who are already struggling with the homeless population. It's believed there'll be an increase of 68% in homelessness in the Golden State, adding an additional 131,400 people to the already swollen numbers. And Aluxers, if you'd like to learn some more about the homeless, be sure to listen to Those People, The True Character of the Homeless by Richard Baer. It's beautifully written and gives you a far greater insight into those people. It's available for free on Audible. Just go to Alux.com/freebook. So Aluxers, what's your take on homelessness? Have you ever been homeless yourself and turned it around? We love to hear from you in the comments, so please share your story. And of course, since you stuck with us until the end, we do have a bonus for you, and it's not all doom and gloom, because there have been a significant rise in the availability of supportive housing. Between 2007 and 2019, there were 144,000 more beds available for the homeless than there was in 2007. That's a 380% increase. The tiny house movement is also taking off, where people can afford a small, basic home, and it not only provides much-needed shelter, but it's easier to maintain and gives the owner confidence to keep moving onward and upward. Thanks for watching, Aluxers. We're so glad you joined us today. We always value your support, so please don't forget to subscribe and give us a like on this one.